Consistent stability, however, this is important. If you drove to work today, you probably drove in a pickup or a car, and you sat at the driver's seat, which is located within the pattern of the four wheels. So you have your front wheels, your rear wheels, and the seat is somewhere in that pattern. And if you stop and picked up a few other workers to come ride to work with you, where did they sit? They sat also within the pattern of the four wheels. Now maybe your car, your pickup was a little more loaded down because of those folks joining you, but it was still consistent stability because you're within the pattern of four wheels. Scissors lifts are by and large within the pattern of four wheels. So we don't usually have to go through a whole lot of worry about scissor lifts toppling over if we keep them on level ground, on concrete pads, because they're consistently stable. Forklifts, cranes, concrete pumps, boom trucks, extended reach, boom lifts of any sort, all have stability changes with every different action you take. So let's go back to our pickup truck that we drove to work. So you drove your truck to work, you're going to pick up some guys, and you needed to go by the yard and pick up a trailer with a bobcat on the back of it and take it to the job site. In doing so, you backed up the pickup, hooked up the trailer, notice that as soon as you picked up the jack, the trailer or the pickup went like this. Now our load is no longer within the pattern of four wheels, our load is on the bumper, pushing down on the hitch. Therefore the two units go like that. Now we have an unsafe situation with our truck and trailer. So we have a stability change with our pickup truck because our load is outside the pattern of four wheels. So now our front wheels are in the air, we can't really steer and we can't stop at a stoplight. So we untie the back bobcat and we back it up a little bit, and now our truck and trailer go this direction. Now we can stop really well, but our rear tires won't stay there. We will jackknife the trailer. So that's not so good either. So now we need to move the bobcat so that the trailer frame is level and parallel. It could be a little higher or lower, but parallel to the truck frame. Okay? That's the same thing. That's the stability changes with different loads. So that affects us with forklifts and everything else. Now, how you like it? I just added trailer and pickup truck safety into a forklift class.
Nice.
And the last one is low speeds versus high speeds. Okay, let's tie three principles together. The principle of the center of gravity. Center of gravity on a forklift, when the forks are on the ground, is back and low. When we load the forks, our center of gravity shifts forward towards our front axle pivot point, or fulcrum. Load is low. If the load was too heavy now, and the forklift was tipped and the rear wheels came off the ground, would that be a catastrophe? No. The rear wheels would be merely off the ground, and you wouldn't be able to go forward. It's not great, it's too heavy a load for the forklift, but we didn't break anything and it's not a catastrophe. On the other hand, if we tip the forklift now, could this be a catastrophe? Why? Well, obviously, as soon as this thing falls over, our load is going to hit the ground and smash it to smithereens. Probably going to bend the forklift. But the bigger catastrophe is, someone smile for me. Do you have a nice smile in her? Ah, she has a nice smile. Okay. When your head starts to accelerate as this forklift falls and it suddenly stops at the ground, you have now generated momentum with your face and your body, and it's going to collide with the steering wheel. And we might not have such a nice smile. That would be a catastrophe. Now for some of you, maybe you're not. Okay. Momentum. I just mentioned momentum with your face smashing against the steering wheel. Momentum is a force that tends to keep objects moving in their original direction after the direction of travel has changed. So suddenly you have to overcome your inertia of the forklift falling. Your head is back. As you start to fall forward, as your whole forklift is tipping the load, you have now gone into momentum, and as your face is accelerating into that steering wheel, the forklift stops, but you still have that momentum to cause that action where you'll bang your face in the steering wheel. Okay? Do we understand momentum now? Momentum, when we pick up a column or a beam from a forklift, and we turn too quickly, can want to go this direction, can turn the forklift over. So many of our forklift accidents are side tipping from going too high and too fast. If we take our center of gravity, that's principle number 1, and momentum, principle number 2, and we tie it to the principle of the stability triangle. We must keep our center of gravity within the stability triangle. Otherwise, the forklift will fall over. So this is a vertical. Although it has 4 wheels and it looks like a rectangle because the rear axle pivots to follow the ground, it's actually a triangle, so it's a little bit more narrow. Here's a stability triangle in a vertical. Same triangle down here, but this is what it looks like here. This is our forklift center of gravity. This is our load center of gravity equals a combined center of gravity. As long as the combined center of gravity stays within that stability triangle, the forklift won't turn over. However, if we do something that either momentum, erratic action, change of grade, level the machine the wrong way, we can get our center of gravity outside that triangle, the forklift will fall over. This forklift has just been turned back over from being involved in a double fatality. First off, this forklift was owned by the electrical contractor. It's a 33-foot reach Caterpillar forklift. It was going to be used to stand up 36-foot high aluminum poles on a 4-foot high base at a super Walmart. Forklift is too short. But instead of renting a bigger machine, because they own this, they want to keep the money in the company, and the owner is like, I don't want you renting equipment, I bought a forklift for you. So it's got to do. Well, this is a bad idea, and we'll see how it ended up in a double fatality. So the employees, because they were told not to rent a new forklift that was big enough, on Friday afternoon went and grabbed a piece of steel they had in the backyard, welded up a simple little forklift jib, painted it yellow for the dumb safety people, went out and picked up a transformer that weighed about 1,000 pounds, it didn't bend, so they thought they were good to go. So now we've added a 14-foot long lever to our forklift that's not designed to handle that extra weight. On Monday morning, when they delivered the forklift to the job site, this tire was half flat. So they aired it up to the 45 pounds that they needed to put in there, and they went off and they picked up the first pole. The foreman who was operating the forklift put a nylon strap around the aluminum pole that would slide up it and slide down it, so it was easy to hook up and disconnect. Put it in the center of the long 36-foot pole, which had a heavy base at this end and the lighter arm at this end. As he picked up, the pole stood up, the nylon choker slid, of course, and the base is over here. As soon as it clears the ground, the base swings like a pendulum, back and forth. The forklift wobbled like this and scared the foreman, but it didn't turn over. It scared him enough to do what? To continue, not to stop. So he went and got 2 employees. They tied a rope around the base, and one employee held this side of the rope, and the other employee held this side of the rope on that pole, and they drove very slowly until they went to the first concrete pedestal. They set it on there, they put the bolts and nuts down, they tightened it down, whew, got it, didn't fall over. They lowered the boom, the nylon choker came down, they untied it, and then they did the most extraordinary thing. They went and got pole number 2 and did the same thing. Instead of quitting there, being scared, they went and got pole number 2. Then 3, then 4. By lunchtime, they'd set 23 poles. The more poles they set, the more comfortable they came with the whole process, which is an inherently dangerous activity. So it's just like texting and driving. The more you text successfully, the more apt you are to text again successfully. Because you think, well, I did it last time, I'm a good driver, I have enough clearance, and so forth. So you're going to keep doing it until you get in a smash-up. Statistically, the more you text is more likely you are to have an accident. But we get comfortable with it psychologically, just like this setting pole number 23. Pole number 23, they broke for lunch, they called their boss. They told him that they were how well they were doing. He said, you're only supposed to do 8 a day, but great, go have good lunch. They came back after lunch. After lunch, this tire has been leaking, so it's a lot softer now. Okay? We don't know how many pounds of pressure was in it, but it had gotten softer. If we eat lunch, we divert blood and oxygen from our brain, being intellectual running a forklift, to our stomach. So we're not paying attention as much. We're a little sleepier, we're a little more drowsy. We're not as acute as we were when we're driving around, kind of afraid because we were too worried. Pole 24, the foreman operating the forklift had missed this cut in the pavement 23 times. Pole 24, he drove off, put this soft tire in that little cut in the pavement. The forklift immediately went into this mode here. The top of the forklift jumped over to the side, pulling the top of the pole with it. The base is over here. The workers felt the tug on the rope, let go of the rope, and the pole swung out like a pendulum, pulled the entire forklift over. The pole arm that holds the light struck 2 workers looking at the plans at their toolbox, killing them dead. The electrical contractor lost his business over this entire event because he killed 2 other workers by coming up with an unapproved, non-engineered, non-manufactured approved extension for a forklift. During the investigation, the operator, the foreman, maintained the machine was dead level. I'm sure it was. He still had a soft tire, drove off in a hole with an extension that wasn't made for that forklift, and turned it over. Outriggers. Outriggers help us with our stability triangle. They move our stability triangle from our front axle pivot point here forward to here. In some machines that's going to be 18 inches, maybe it's a couple of feet on different machines, but it moves it forward so we have far more weight of our forklift behind us, so we can pick up and place more of a load. So that's an improvement. It also broadens our stability with that outriggers down, which is pretty good. So we have more stability this way so we can go up higher, and that's a good improvement. However, we can get in trouble with outriggers in a couple of ways. One, before we deploy the outriggers, if we are balanced and we are driving, our load is where we can just land it and drive back. The minute we put our outriggers down, we're fixed. We need to make sure that we've checked our load chart and that we have enough capacity in our machine to extend out, because we can't drive forward to balance. So the further we extend out, the more likely we are to tip. So we need to be aware of that before we deploy our outriggers. Secondly, these outriggers tend to move fairly erratically. So they kind of go fairly quickly. So if you're here and you're boomed out and you adjust the outrigger, it's going to go fairly quickly, but even if it's a 2-inch movement here, it may be 2 or 3 feet up there. And that will allow the forklift and the load to crash into the building. If someone's standing there, perhaps hit them. So we always want to take your time, no matter how many people are waving at you and pushing you and trying to hurry you, to bring your entire load all the way down low, adjust your outriggers, and then take it back up. Do not move it while it's up in the air, because it's going to be a huge movement.